From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They called me Ben. We're joined as always with our super producer, Alexis, codenamed Doc Holliday Jackson. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. What a week. What a time to be alive. We are living out that old curse existing during interesting times, and that's why we do this thing at the top of the week every week until we get black bag. Call it strange news. Want to thank everybody who takes the time to write to us, who takes the time to hip us to stories. We're grateful for these, and we never get to all of them, but we're going, let's see, not just around the US, but we're going to outer space today at the end. And before we do any of that, of course, we're headed to Vegas, right?
Vegas, baby. Yes.
The place where what happens there stays there, right? That's the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Them's the rules. Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Unless someone writes a story about it and tells the world.
Well, they did try to make Vegas family friendly for a while there, a few years. And I think they went back and said, you know what, guys, we're a city of vice. We know vice.
Strippers and blow.
We do it well. Let's just get back to the slots. But yeah. Have you been to Vegas, Matt? Have you spent much time there?
Yeah, I've been to Vegas so many times. Oh, man, it's practically my second home.
I was wondering why they have a picture of you up at the Luxor.
It's not at the Luxor, Ben. Come on.
Oh, okay.
It's at the...
Is this not the clown one, is
Circus.
it?
Thank you. That's the one. Yeah. I was about to say, the creepy clown motel. Is that one?
Yeah. But no, I think I've been like once or twice. But Vegas is a fascinating place, and that is where we're headed. But before we get there and before we get to our story, guys, I want to know how you would feel if you were a 911 dispatcher in Las Vegas for their Metropolitan Police, and you heard this.
There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Yeah. As a 911 operator, I mean, this person is handling it with absolute professionalism, you know.
Subjects.
Yeah. That was the only slight stumble. I guess if you are a 911 operator in any large city, then you hear a lot of things, right? And you always have to treat them seriously. So maybe she's assuming drugs at this point?
I honestly thought the interjection of the word subject was sort of deferential and respectful to the caller, as not to call them crazy. It was like, we're going to use these generic terms, but I'm not immediately questioning you or in your sanity. We're going to just use sort of like a catch-all term. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. I mean, stumble as in she caught herself from saying, hey, they're not people.
But exactly.
So, yeah.
Yep. On the same page. I don't know. I immediately think prank, but the person doesn't sound pranky. I mean, they sound like they're describing something. So I don't know.
There's certainly no audible chuckling in the background of friends that you might hear if it was a prank call or something. It should be noted that it is a felony to call 911 and report something false. If there's actual evidence that you have done this, it is a felony.
Wow.
So be careful.
Yeah, and if you accidentally call 911, stay on the line and let them know it was an accident, because what else can, it can lead to some pretty scary conclusions if a call goes through to 911 and then hangs up,
I imagine protocol is to act on that and to treat it as an emergency situation.
That is protocol. And in this case, it could be just two people that are in this person's backyard trespassing for one reason or another. So you do have to treat it as really a trespassing, I think, is how you would initially treat this. Now, also remember, we are in Vegas, which is a huge performance town, right? All kinds of different live performances, different costumes, different things like that are going on.
That's a really good point.
Stilts,
perhaps. Somebody got a little too drunk at Circus, doing the bootleg Cirque du Soleil performance.
Exactly. It could be any of that stuff. That's why it was treated as seriously. Let's at least look into it. And it leads us to our story. And it comes to us from Channel 8 CBS local news there in Las Vegas. It's a story by David Charnes. It was posted on June 7th, 2023. And the title is Las Vegas Family Claims to See Aliens After Several Report Something Falling from Sky. Now, did you catch that? Something falling from the sky? This 911 call and this report of alleged alien activity in a backyard in Las Vegas corresponds immediately, directly, with reports of something strange and glowing that fell from the sky and landed somewhere in that same vicinity.
Wow.
It's pretty weird, right?
Yeah.
That object was captured on a police officer's camera that they were wearing, where you can see this police officer having a conversation with two people on the street. They are blurred in this video because that's not the pertinent information in the video. If you're looking at the center top of the frame, you can see this almost bluish green glowing light fly through the air in the background as it's headed in a trajectory towards the Earth. Pretty weird,
Comet?
right? It sounds a lot like a meteorite, right?
Yeah.
One of these objects that's burning up in the Earth's atmosphere as it's entering. It is a bit strange to see it that specific green-blue color, right? Which might lead you to believe that there are specific minerals or some kind of elements inside that meteorite, if it is in fact a meteorite that's burning up as it's heating up in the atmosphere.
And AMS says, or American Meteor Society says, there are 10 to 50 meteorites falling somewhere every day. But you're right, and that's something I appreciate in your notes on this, Matt. There is a fascinating correlation here.
Yeah, and you can actually go, there's a website that I linked to. Is that what you're talking about, Ben? The AMS website that shows that there was something that fell, or at least sightings of something that fell out there on that date. Because the date, everybody, is May 1st, 2023. That's when all of this went down. But it wasn't reported until, or at least reported widely, until a full month after. And the reason why we know about it is because George Knapp, who also works at KLAS or Channel 8 CBS News there in Las Vegas, he did a pretty full report on it, and he has been speaking with that family directly, having interviews with them. It does appear that the family's being a little cagey at this point. We can say that one member of the family who's been mentioned most prominently, named Angel, gave a full interview with a person named Doug Papa, who's a journalist out there in Las Vegas. And you can also right now find a video, almost I don't know what you would call it, not a confessional video, but just a video document, basically, that Angel created and posted on his own YouTube channel that is just him telling the story. Guys, and I thought we could watch just a snippet of that video, talk about it, and then I made a version of the video that he shares within this. It's like a video in a video. And I slowed it down to about 20% so we could really analyze it. So let's go ahead and get started here. This is from Angel's YouTube channel.
And here's a video where we were in the backyard area. You cannot see it too good but on camera, but it's there. Here's a video.
¡Ay! ¡Permisar! Calmungarela, me canceles var eso. Cáelo, cherro, que chilica. Cáelo, cherro.
Moments after the video, me and my brother went to go pick up my tools. Then my brother calls me, and he told me shakingly, "Look behind the forklift." So I look. Keep in mind, I'm facing the forklift, and then I see the alien creature. So when I saw it, it was a tall, skinny, lengthy creature. It was a gray greenish color, and when I looked at it in the eyes, my body just froze.
Okay.
All right.
That's the same guy from the 911 call?
That's the same guy. Yeah, that's Angel.
He has a similar air of authenticity. I'm just, reading tone here. You know what I mean? Like he seems like he believes what he's saying.
There's some body language stuff in there, Ben, that I'm assuming you picked up on, but it's a younger guy, and he's telling a story. You can't see it obviously in this podcast format, but he's got, I think, a statement written down on a phone or a tablet or something that's next to the camera that's filming him, and he's constantly going forward and scrolling basically to get to the next thing. So he's really reading a statement. That's almost what it is, a witness statement.
100%. It's a witness statement. It's not designed to hold up in court, but think about this family right now. Regardless of whether you consider yourself a true believer or a dyed-in-the-wool skeptic, we got to exercise empathy and realize this family has been hounded and inundated with all sorts of attention once the story went viral. So it's really smart of Angel or any family member to have a here are the facts description so that the countless reporters going to them can be met with just the, here you go. Here's my statement. You can use that on Local 5 or 9 or whatever.
Yep.
I was a little confused about what we were supposed to be looking for in the video.
Yes. Okay. So in that video, that's the whole family present there. Mother, father, several children, including Angel.
In the backyard in question, right? This is the backyard. Okay.
They're peering through a doorway to the backyard area. It's a fairly large area that appears to be covered in some kind of gravel. There are numerous vehicles back there. You can see images of this place from up above, like from a bird's eye view, from a drone, and you can see that it's almost like a huge parking lot for vehicles. And according to Angel, he was in the back working on his truck in that area when they heard a big crash, and this some kind of vehicle with lights was in the backyard, crashed down to the earth in the backyard. They all freaked out about it. And then, as he states there, basically the entire family went and investigated. And the video we're looking at here that we just saw is the whole family opening that gate and peering into the backyard. Angel states right before that place in the video that you can't really see him or the creature, the entity back there, but he's in there. So it made me curious. I slowed the thing down to 20%, increased the exposure a little bit, and tried to mess with the contrast enough to see into the darkness that's right in the center. So let's go ahead and look at that, guys, and let's just see what we see. So you can't really see anything in this first shot. There are two places in the video. Here's the second place. In the background there.
The white thing?
I see light reflection in there, but I don't see much else. I'm going to play it one more time, guys.
Yeah, it's definitely a little tough to see. There's definitely a light of some sort. Yeah.
And there's a form. Like under the light, there's sort of like, you know what? That looks like maybe a car, though. There's like a kind of a slanted line.
There's a vehicle back there for sure.
Okay. And he mentions a forklift as well, and he's working on a car. There's a tweet I put in the chat here where somebody did something similar. They froze and zoomed in on the footage. This was Fred Staples, and he's got a thing where he zoomed in a little bit, but it's next to it. He's got a still picture of just a frame pull of what could be any number of things.
Oh,
at this
come
point,
on!
Oh, definitely aliens. That's why the body cam footage isn't there?
No, I don't see anything in that. I think when you draw a line around anything, it looks strange.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, I don't see anything in the
basically
picture.
Drew a little alien.
Yeah, that's silly.
It's like a little, no, I'm with you. I don't see. But again, I'm stuck with the feeling of that the authenticity of in the tone on that 911 call. But I do have to say, I've been thinking about it a lot lately with this news coming out about unknown materials of unknown origin and all of that. I think it's going to happen, guys. I think we're going to have a day where we have to really question a lot of the things that we've believed or not believed. I think we're going to see in our lifetime, we're going to be faced with something inexplicable like what this kid is claiming to have seen.
Something's going to happen. Sure. I mean, there's also the question, given what we know about how few entities control mass media. The timing of these things is interesting. I don't think, I'm not at all casting aspersion on the sincerity of the people. My question is, why did the story go viral? You know what I mean? Is that because UFOs are in the zeitgeist or UAP? It's interesting. It is a fascinating conundrum. And maybe disclosure will one day no longer be a jam tomorrow, jam yesterday, but never ever jam today situation.
Yeah, it also, I think, went viral because the individual police officers in the department there itself, they took it very seriously. Mm-hmm. There was a surveillance camera in the backyard in that large open area that we talked about where some craft allegedly landed, where the entities allegedly were. But according to the family there, that camera is not controlled by them. It is controlled by the landlord. And as of the initial reporting from everywhere that I've seen, nobody has found footage of this craft or this event. I heard some rumors, but I think they're just rumors that the kind of the tale that you hear a lot, some kind of EMF interference, some kind of electromagnetic force knocked the camera out for the time that the craft was there. Who knows if that's real or not? But the police did, after this event, set up their own surveillance on the home itself to check out what's going on. It's the Homeland Security Department of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police.
Mm-hmm. And they also, these police who are relatively, skeptical in their line of work, they seem to have, at least one of them seems to have encountered something, right? And we know that it's interesting to me, though, that the logic for the body cam footage being turned off is that they were going on private property. And I think that's
body cam. I'm talking about surveillance camera.
I know what you're talking. I'm saying the body cam was also turned off. That could have shed a lot of light. I know you're talking about the surveillance system, because there are pictures of that, aren't there? Right? The one the cops put up.
Isn't it like a ring? Like I was reading something about a doorbell camera. Is that what we're talking about?
Oh no, wait. I'm thinking of the one, Matt, you were talking about, the earlier one that the landlord had, and then the cops or Homeland put up a second one. And then there was this thing where people said that's kind of unusual, right? For police to return and set up that surveillance.
Yeah, I think that's, again, one of the big reasons why this has caught so much fire is that the police department there, even Homeland Security within that police department, is taking it seriously as though something may have happened, because they have corroborating evidence from their own officers of something going down in that area at that time.
There was a really cool response to the tweet that Ben posted. Says, you can't fake a meteorite and improv a 911 call with family panic video 10 minutes later. Listen to the audio and tell me the family scripted this moment. So that's the thing I keep returning to, is just the timing. You were obviously taken by that too, Matt, just how quickly this happened after that falling event, whatever that item was. I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of what that was exactly, but the timing and just the tone of all of this really feels legit to me.
Yeah. There's just one last thing here, guys. According to the brothers, because it's two brothers, Angel is one of them, who witnessed this thing. They were in the back working on the truck. Their statement is that when this thing landed, it was blurry. Now, that sounds interesting to me. It was blurry when it landed, and then the whole backyard area appeared to be blurry after they ran away and were observing it.
Like some sort of heat distortion, or like a aura, kind of?
Or some
blurry
sort of propulsion system, right? That's distorting. This is weird to say, but space and or time in some way.
Or just the air. Like, you've ever seen heat in the desert. It makes, like, it really visually distorts your perception of space.
Again, you got to take their word for it or not. But that's kind of where the story is right now. If you hear anything new about this, or you've got anything else to add, we'd love to hear from you. So do reach out. For now, we're going to take a quick break, hear a word from a sponsor, and we'll be right back with more strange news.
And we have returned. We're traveling from Vegas to Cuba via DC, where the news broke recently that the government of China has not only been trading goods and services with Cuba, but they have been running a spy station there since at least 2019, probably earlier. I am Jack's inherent lack of surprise because we've been following the growing surveillance beef between China and the U.S. for a while. Were you guys surprised? I know you had heard about this also.
This one is actually new to me this week, so I'm diving in with you right now, Ben.
Same. I would say not entirely surprised, but I'd like to hear more.
So we knew about the so-called secret police stations. That was another big story that broke a few months back. And we know about the Confucius Institutes, which are a little bit controversial sometimes. I think it's a little bit unfair to throw the Confucius Institutes in with those police stations. But the deal is that the National Security Council spokesperson, or one of them, a guy named John Kirby, talked with the Wall Street Journal about this. And officials at the Biden administration got caught out when news of this alleged Chinese spy base hit the public. They said, oh, we've got a bunch of classified stuff about this. We have to downgrade it so that we can respond because there's inaccurate reporting on the matter. And the stuff they could confirm is pretty spooky. Beijing totally denies this. They say, we don't know what you're talking about. And then also, hey, you guys have a problem with spying, which is a really good point, honestly. Unfortunately, right? That's the case. I mean, if the United States can spy on China, why can't China spy on the U.S.? That's the question they're asking.
Well, it's a do as I say, not as I do kind of tactic, right? You know?
Oh, and it came on the heels of the spy balloon, too. Totally forgot about the spy balloons.
I think the key is just don't get caught. That's sort of how spying works, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does it, and no one wants to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Check out our episodes on so-called tradecraft. We also know, the conversation that we always have where we're talking about things like disclosure, or we're talking about the cadence of why stories evolve or find a niche and expand in the public mind. How much of that is organic? How much of it is calculated? We can read some tea leaves here with these increased claims about spying, and they don't look good. Uncle Sam and Uncle G, I think I mentioned this on a group text, are increasingly violating the kind of gentlemen's agreements that a lot of the frenemy countries have.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I didn't want to derail, Ben. There was just really loud thunder that just occurred as you said that, and it was striking to me.
Oh, no. They're all in on it. It's Chinese spies landing in Vegas. So it's strange, too. There are some funny moments because the Biden administration, when they first talked about this, they said, we inherited this problem, which was a real snarky way to get at the Trump administration. But their basic thing was, okay, why are you yelling at us? It's not our fault. We're trying to handle it, which is not what you want to hear from the halls of power.
No, it's not. So I'm really interested in the reaction from even Cuban officials about this story, who are saying it's like, that's ridiculous. We don't want any foreign military presence anywhere here. We also don't want it anywhere in the Caribbean. No.
Right. We also wish you guys would get out of Guantanamo, right?
Yeah.
Which is the oldest U.S. foreign military base. Yeah, Cuba has labored under the U.S. embargoes for a very long time. And this can be a sensitive issue to a lot of people in the U.S., but also, no surprise, in Cuba as well. The countries are not friendly. During some previous administrations, there have been efforts to normalize relationships, but they inevitably fall apart once an anti-Cuba guy gets in office.
They opened it back up very, very briefly. And my kid and her mom got to visit like this tiny window when travel was opened back up. And they said it was wonderful. It was a beautiful country and really cool old cars everywhere, and incredible culture. But yeah, they slammed those doors real quick.
Mm-hmm. And Cuba does have absolutely astonishing car mechanics by necessity. Each one of them is a walking MacGyver. It's amazing. I guess MacGyver was a walking MacGyver. Moving on. To your question, Matt, Cuba's vice foreign minister, named Carlos Fernandez de Cosio, totally dismissed the original Wall Street Journal report, and he called it, quote, This is from Reuters. He called it a U.S. fabrication meant to justify a decades-old U.S. economic embargo against the island nation. Like you said, Matt, and I think this is what you're referring to, Cuba rejects all foreign military presence in Latin America and the Caribbean because the USSR is no longer their sort of patron state. Not patron saint, but they get very close at times. That's probably why Cuba is getting toward a win-win deal with China, and then furthermore, unless we get more information, the building or the structure may be real and China and Cuba don't consider it a spy station. Maybe it's just the U.S.'s opinion, right? That's the idea.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the implications of a powerful actual spying station 100 miles off the coast of Florida. Do we think that could be extremely effective if there was one there, even if it's still across 100 miles of ocean?
Yes. Yeah, it could be more. So partially, it could be helpful with signals intelligence, right? And another thing that it could be useful for is force projection. Force projection is the kind of buttoned up term for being able, as a country, being able to get your military or armed forces out beyond your own borders and sustain it. So that's the next step in China's role as a superpower. And if you're China, then it makes sense, right? You've seen this kind of stuff work with the USSR and Cuba in the past. There is precedent. If you're Cuba, it makes sense to get in a win-win situation with a nation like China that also shares some of your concerns about the United States. Is it illegal? Not really, because it's not like they're on foreign soil, and if the government of Cuba approved, then there's nothing wrong. It's just a bad look. And I'm also wondering if they would have just let this little outpost go on its merry way and pick up, various signal intelligence, things like that. I think they would have never said anything if it hadn't gone public.
Yeah,
right?
probably. So you're assuming, so you're saying U.S. intelligence probably knew and just was just going to be like, let's watch that.
Yeah. Let's feed them some fake news.
That's the move. I mean, that's honestly just the only strategic move there. If you know, then you just kind of don't tip your hand and use it to your advantage.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like you want that information asymmetry. You want to know more than the other side. But for a lot of people, the question then becomes, is this a sign that relationships between the U.S. and China and the world are going to continue to deteriorate? It's true the U.S. has, for all intents and purposes, initiated a slow pullout of the Middle East. Like that's why Saudi Arabia just made a big economic deal with China. Saudi Arabia is accepting Chinese currency for oil payments. It's sort of a dun 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 situation. The world is changing. It's no longer going to be the day of a single superpower, but I don't think it's quite to the collapse of the U.S. as the U.S. dollar as de facto reserve currency, which we discussed in a previous Strange News segment, I think, or listener mail segment. Anyway, this one is for all our folks who are in the game in China. We'll keep it brief. Just thought it was to me, it stood out as something that we're going to look back on later with the benefit of retrospect, and we'll see a heightening series of escalations. This is one of those steps.
Is the takeaway here that we're not quite as aware of how cozy? There's a new layer of realization as to how cozy these countries are and have been with each other?
I would say that's part of it. Another one is the realization that China is a hegemonic force. It is.
They're
expanding.
making moves.
They're
right?
making moves, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't want to assign morality to these kind of geopolitical actions. But we have to remember, even though the James Bond series is a wonderful story about a terrible spy, espionage is real. It is happening. And I don't know if people should be paranoid. I think we're well past the level of paranoia. But you should pay attention because there are going to be stories coming out in the news. I guarantee it. In the near to short term, there are going to be stories coming out in the news that are going to sound wonky because there's something else happening behind the scenes, between the lines. I don't know what it is. We can't predict it, but we're going to see further escalations. Hopefully, these escalations are not going to lead to a hot war, but maybe on the way to a Cold War Part 2, the coldening.
Was it Belarus that just made some kind of announcement about nuclear weaponry and Russia?
Oh, Belarus. Yeah, Belarus has been going through it. That's Lukashenko. They're getting, I think the news is Russia is delivering nukes to Belarus.
Okay.
Which is also double plus on good.
Yeah, it also somewhat rhymes. So there's that.
There's that. Like we said, I think I said this in an earlier group chat that we had off air. You know, no matter how you feel about the chaotic state of the current world, the memes are going to be lit. The memes are going to be amazing. So this was for all of our friends in Cuba, in China, in the US, and abroad. Anybody playing the game? Let us know what you know to the degree that you're comfortable telling us. And let us know your predictions for the future of spying with the U.S. and China. We've been lucky enough to have some people with personal experience write in. Greatly appreciate your time. Stay safe out there. Join the show. We're going to pause for a word from our sponsors, keeping this one pretty short, and we will be back with one more piece of strange news. In outer space.
And we've returned, turned a trip into the deepest realms of the moons of Jupiter. Yeah, that's right. We're talking about habitable space places. You know, we're always on the hunt for that, sort of, I guess. Or at least, you know, a home from beyond the stars for when we wreck this one. Certainly an interesting proposition. Probably would be better just to be better stewards of this here planet that seems so tailor-made for life and all that entails. But the search, whether it be for research purposes or actual repopulation in the event of some sort of global catastrophe, the search for life and places that can support life in outer space continues. And there's been a pretty significant breakthrough. There's an article on Vice by Becky Ferreira, headlines, Saturn's moon Enceladus is habitable, confirms breakthrough study. So what scientists have discovered are high levels of phosphorus in the oceans of this moon, in one of Saturn's rings. The moon is called Enceladus. And this is a very important find because it is, I believe, the only time this has ever been detected in, extraterrestrial oceans. And that's what this study has concluded. And it's a big deal because it is an indicator that it could support life, at least the kind of life that we're familiar with, the kind of organisms that we experience here on Earth. Yeah, that we vibe with. And there are other examples of conditions on other moons that could. This discovery leads researchers to believe that some of these other planets might also have these similar conditions. For example, Neptune's moon, Triton, Pluto, but they don't have the data to back it up on those quite yet. But what they have discovered is that Enceladus, which only measures about 300 miles across, has very, very interesting marine environments, essentially. There was a spacecraft, Cassini, that NASA deployed that ended its run out in space in 2017. But before it ended, it was able to actually scoop up some frozen water, some kind of bound up ice cores, from the planet's surface, and then hold on to it while it finished, doing its final years. And then it actually brought it back, and that is what has been analyzed.
Well, no, those ice particles that they were studying, It's crazy to know they came from these giant geysers on the moon.
That's right.
They shoot that stuff far out
because it's a subsurface ocean.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. So it's not open to the surface, in other words, right? So it's almost like giant, vast, flooded caves or something. Like when you say subsurface ocean, can you kind of describe what a geological feature like that might feel like if we were to come upon it?
Yeah. So H.P. Lovecraft. No, I'm kidding. But it does have Lovecraft
that's
vibes.
the field. You're
that's
not wrong.
The vibe. Yeah. So it's the way I understand it in the Nature journal article that was released about these phosphates you mentioned. The way we understand it is that liquid water, one of the holy grails of human space exploration, exists, but it exists in other places, on other planets, other celestial bodies. But because we are in this kind of Goldilocks temperature zone, we can have water on the surface without it, and the water will stay there, and not all these other crazy things will happen. A global subsurface means there's water under the whatever the surface might be. It could be ice, it could be another like frozen substance or chemical, or it could be straight up rock. You know, like the moon is pretty cool, but the moon would be way, way cooler if it had a ton of water under the rocks.
And in Enceladus's case, I don't know how to say it, in this moon's case, it really is mostly ice on the surface. So like imagine those geysers, like you said, Noel, bursting up through that ice. So you've got the liquid water that awesome little machine just happened to like catch some. So dope.
Like a snow globe cracking almost is how you get the liquid water.
For sure. None of us claim to be scientists here, but the phosphorus angle is obviously the breakthrough of this study. And I'm kind of a little bit confused as to why that's so important. I will get a little clarification from a guy named Frank Postberg, who is in fact a planetary scientist at the Freie Universität in Berlin. He had this to say: Enceladus was already considered a pretty habitable place before this. The conditions in the ocean seem to be good for life. There are very likely hydrothermal vent systems at the bottom of the ocean that would be an energy source, so you don't need sunlight. There is a rich variety of organic compounds we detected previously in the ice and vapor that is emitted in the plume, but the missing ingredient was phosphorus, and that's why phosphorus gets a lot of attention, because it was the only element that had not been detected by Cassini and was considered critical.
I mean, phosphate, I first learned about the importance of phosphate very late in the game. It's when Matt, you and I did an episode on the oceans, on phosphate in the oceans, right? And I was not aware that phosphorus is one of the 6 essential elements of all life on Earth.
There it is.
That's it's such an underrated player in the game. You know what I mean? Everybody's like, oh, oxygen, carbon. What about phosphorus? Why am I yelling? All right, moving on.
Let's name them, Ben. Carbon, I know. Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and there's one more. Sulfur.
Okay. I mean, I would be interested in going through and figuring out, like, are these just markers of a habitable environment, or do our bodies literally need all of these things? Like,
it's interesting.
It's a combination, I think, maybe. You know, obviously we need H2O, you know, we need water, we need air, but where's the phosphorus and the sulfur come in? Or are those just markers, you know?
Yeah, from what I understand, this study from Nature shows us habitable, but not necessarily inhabited, right? Two very similar words, two very different things. I read that one of the guys you mentioned in the study said they believe there might actually be too much phosphorus for there to be undersea life there, because the phosphorus concentration is like something that's like 100 times higher, right? We mentioned
exactly 100 times higher than what we have here on Earth and in Earth's oceans.
So that could indicate that there's nothing there to use the phosphorus. It's like a car waiting for someone to drive it.
That's interesting. He does say, he kind of does refer to it, I guess, again, I'm layman here, but as sort of an indicator. He says the phosphorus is not something that comes from any life form. It's not produced by life. It's just an ingredient that, at least for Earth, was essential for the emergence of life. So like your whole, bringing up the habitable versus inhabited. But when you start seeing these things align, it makes it a hell of a lot more likely that life will be discovered.
I hope so. Or transplanted or created. You know what I mean? Not everybody's a fan, I guess, but life, although it has mixed reviews, is a pretty rare and fascinating thing. So what I like about this study you found, Noel, is that it's so inspiring. I also want to note before we get more emails about it, yes, we know that Earth's moon has water. It just doesn't have as much, and it's also not as cool as this moon.
Can I just add to that one of the pieces of gear that Cassini uses to analyze all of this stuff? It's got the coolest name, CDA for short, but it's Cassini's Cosmic Dust Analyzer.
Oh, snap. That's awesome.
Oh, man. It's a real cosmic gumbo.
Do you think he names everything like in his house? I hope everything has a weird name in his kitchen. You know what I mean?
Cassini's kitchen?
Cassini's Cosmic Kitchen.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. That sounds like a great pizza restaurant. Matt, I think I saw your eyes light up. What you got?
Well, this moon is going to be really popular once we can get humans up there. Do you know why?
Small too. It's a problem.
It's going to be small, but it's going to be really popular with a certain crowd because the oceans, all that water we're talking about that's underneath that solid ice, it's sparkling. It's carbonated.
That's right. And that's because of the phosphorus, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that part of it? The high levels of phosphorus make it like fizzy.
Yes. I like my moon water carbonated.
Yeah, they actually go so far in the Vice article as to refer to it as a soda ocean. Rich in carbonates that speed up the dissolution of phosphorus from rocks. A solar. That sounds luxurious, man. I bet that would really tickle your all kinds of parts.
It's the new Monaco, right?
There you go.
I like this idea. And also it seems like now the reason this is a breakthrough is not just because it has one of the superstars of life as we know it in abundance, but it also helps focus future studies, right? Now we can hone in, we can scope for a little bit more specificity in our research. I'm saying like we're doing it. Again, this is the result of some absolutely brilliant minds. The only qualification I have personally to talk about Saturn and its moons is the fact that I've typed astronaut as my job on this call.
Obviously, we have privately funded space organizations like SpaceX here in the United States making the news mainly because of the idiotic antics of its founder. But there are other space operations. For example, there is something called the European Space Agency that actually just launched an equally badass named piece of equipment into outer space to study Jupiter's moons. It's called JUICE. All caps. Not sure if that's an acronym. Don't care. But love the all caps. And then NASA. Don't forget about little NASA. It's still around to some degree. They recently, or they're preparing to launch something called the Europa Clipper, and that's going to hit in 2024. It's cool to see. It does feel like the stories that we get, well, maybe it's not as, the awe of space like it was when we were kids, or, there's no like moon landings or anything, but it does seem like we do get some bangers every now and then,
Yeah.
Like some real, like I said, I think I said it off the air when we were talking about the Vegas, alien sighting. Like, I truly have turned a corner in my belief that we are going to, in our lifetime, see something that we don't understand, that we have not seen before. We're seeing it in little drips and drabs with these reports of, materials of unknown origin and tic tac and all that stuff. But like, I think it's going to be bigger. I think we're going to see something bigger than that. I don't know what you guys think, but it's just, I feel it. And I'm not usually been the person that really believes that, but I've definitely changed.
I think it's absolutely great. Welcome to the team, bro, because the world is full of these amazing, inexplicable, astonishing things. What maybe sometimes people get disillusioned because the new thing that comes out isn't the thing they wanted. Like a lot of Bigfoot fans might say, why is everybody spending all this time on aliens or true AI? What about Bigfoot? But if we just keep that sense of wonder and open-minded curiosity, then it's impossible to be bored. We do live in interesting times.
Yeah, like both the curse version of that and just the like positive version of it. The monkey's paw version and just the like, good vibes version.
Yeah. I keep wanting to talk about this again, guys. There's no really good place to insert this, but lest we forget about the moon Phobos, Mars's moon Phobos.
Oh, yeah.
How can we forget about Phobos?
And Buzz Aldrin's claim that one time when he was on C-SPAN about there's a strange monolith on Phobos and we need to go up there and check it out and see what's going on.
And never in the news again. Oompa, oompa,
Oh, do you think he got flushed down the bad egg hatch?
That story certainly did. Yeah. It's funny. We're right there with you. Never hesitate, folks, to send us stories of strange and inexplicable or even just inspiring space news. I think we're all space nerds. And I was tripping just a second there because I thought I accidentally said space nudes. I don't think you should send us space nudes.
Why
unless
not?
Unless they're just very sexy planets. Send us all your very sexy planet pics. And we can't wait for you to be part of the show. Thanks, everybody who writes in and supports us. If you want to lend us your perspective, we'd love to hear from you. We try to be easy to find online, regardless of where you are in the galaxy.
Phobos. Boy, do we ever. You can find us all over the internet where we exist at the handle Conspiracy Stuff on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Conspiracy Stuff Show on Instagram and TikTok, and also Phobos.
Yes. You can also call us. Our number is 1-833-STDWYTK. When you call in, you've got 3 minutes to leave a voicemail, give us a cool nickname, and really say whatever you'd like. Just make sure to let us know if we can use your voice and message on the air. If you've got more to say than can fit in that 3 minutes, why not instead send us a good old-fashioned email? We are
conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.